I'm very grateful to the organizers and in particular to Lucilla Minelli of UNESCO for giving me this opportunity to address the participants in Beirut and present to them a few general considerations and elements for discussions. Much effort has been placed by UNESCO IHP as part of its cycle of IW Learn in promoting the integration of groundwater consideration into the GF MENARID program and its many projects. This is part of a long-term process initiated a decade ago thanks to the partnership between GF and UNESCO that has been striving to bring groundwater to the forefront of the global sustainable development agenda. We need to realize that many land and water ecosystems depend on groundwater regimes, as is the case in most arid lands or semi-arid alluvial plains. Groundwater cuts across basins and landscape, sustaining ecosystem and biodiversity, mitigating the impacts of climatic fluctuations, contributing to human health and social economic development. Groundwater, from the shallowest unconfined aquifer to the deepest hidden resource, has a critical role to play in addressing the new challenges of adapting to the realities of a changing climate and of combating desertification. As we approach the conclusion of the MENARID program and of IW Learn support to it, several aspects of a more general nature could be worth consideration in the light of the experience gained so far. There are three elements I would like to present to you today for your consideration. The first of all, I would call it a collective integrated response to the global environmental conventions. Land and water resource degradation is resulting in unprecedented economic and ecosystem losses across the globe that adversely affects billions of people. While the impacts are critical in drylands, deforestation and soil erosion can be serious in more humid areas as well. Global environmental conventions provide frameworks for addressing these issues. The experience gained in the last decade shows that a fragmented implementation of each convention on an individual basis and isolated from broader development efforts will not correct the problems. A collective response to these conventions in the areas of agriculture, natural resources, energy, and water resource management is needed so that interventions can be placed in the context of sustainable development and can yield both local and global benefits. It is this need for a collective response, integrated response, that provides the driving forces for the MENARID initiative led by IFAD and GF, with the participation of many agencies and partners. In the portfolio of the MENARID program, the majority of projects derive their GF grant funding from more than one focal area. It is by joining of forces of the biodiversity, international waters, climate change, and land degradation focal areas that represent the innovative feature of the program and justify the special focus that IW Learn has placed in strengthening this effort by providing opportunities for learning experiences and exchanges among the MENARID projects. The second element, which descends for the first one, is to consider the need for management frameworks. The MENARID includes a variety of single and multifocal area projects addressing issues broadly related to the sustainable utilization of natural resources and the reversal of land degradation trends. It does so within a unifying climatic context, the semi-arid regions of Northern Africa and the Middle East, characterized by water scarcity. Within this homogeneous context, and through similar multi-area, focal area approaches, each project, however, addresses its own specific objectives in geographic areas often very far apart from one another, from Yemen to Morocco to Iran. The added value of their being together under the same umbrella program relates essentially to the regional experience gained in integrated national resources management approaches in drylands. But what could come next or would come next. Should these experiences now be further developed by concentrating projects in the different focal areas within a common territory and management framework towards the common objectives of sustainable development? In the slides, which is being shown right now, I present an example, a real case of the Caspian Basin, where after a long period of assessments and diagnostic studies, the sources of environmental degradation were clearly identified. Well, in this case, if we could cluster around within this basin international water projects dealing with coastal management, fisheries, pollution reduction, or persistent organic pollutants disposal of stockpiles, which are contaminating many sites around the Caspian Sea. Land degradation projects on sustainable grazing, soil conservation demonstration projects, but also climate change, promoting rural electrification and renewable energies to reduce fuel wood consumption. And finally, biodiversity with protected areas, control of alien species, and habitat degradation. If you could integrate all these projects within the basin, then we could really have an impact, likely more so than by continuing with more fragmented, isolated effort. And in the same time, this would represent a collective response to all global environmental conventions. What is now becoming clear objective in water management is the need to manage conjunctively surface and groundwater. Back in 1997, the UN Convention on Non-Navigational Uses of International Watercourses defined water resources as a system of surface waters and groundwater constituting, by virtue of their physical relationships, an unitary whole. And the Convention encouraged countries to seek conjunctive management and enter multi-country agreements in case of transboundary water bodies. This call for a holistic consideration of water resources enshrined in the Convention, which will enter into force finally next August, is still valid and still to be implemented. All water resources present within a management unit, be it an island, a basin, a country, primarily freshwater, surface and groundwater, but also wastewaters and saline waters have to be managed conjunctively and strategically. This implies the need for comprehensive assessments of the water resources, rivers, lakes, aquifers, down to economic reachable depths. The monitoring of their state, quantity and quality, and evolution through multi-purpose monitoring networks strategically designed so as to bring both knowledge and immediate benefits. Investment in infrastructure like multi-purpose surface and subsurface water storage, rainwater harvesting, exploration for deep-seated water resources, wastewater treatment and reuse, building of engineered wetlands, and finally reforms in policy, legal, and institutional settings. IWLearn and UNESCO's contribution to MENARID program focused on groundwater has to be assessed in the broader context and perspective of conjunctive water management, of integrated approaches to natural resources utilization, and of the reversal of land degradation. The lesson learned will hopefully be that groundwater, the main source of fresh water in drylands, has to be at center stage in environmentally sustainable development efforts. With this, I wish you a very fruitful debate and look forward to read the results of your meeting. Thank you very much for your attention, and goodbye.